and make my adjustments here. Yeah, that's good. That works. How is everybody doing out there? How are we doing volume wise here? Yeah, all right. Very good. Looking good. Hey, Ben, good evening. All right. I'm doing kind of a two camera thing. Well, not two camera here. I can actually see the live stream now a little bit better. I finally figured out how to make that work. So if I look over in this direction, generally it's because I'm just checking the live stream. How is everybody doing out there? I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a good week. Whether you're watching this live right now or if you're going to catch this on the rerun, I want to let you know starting out that I do appreciate you taking the time to do so. Our time is valuable, and you taking a little bit of yours, spending it with me is much appreciated. Well, all right. Just I have to sit here and get my mind together. I just spent the last 2 hours putting together one of those not IKEA types, a little bit better quality than that, but one of those like you assemble it yourself cabinet, comes in a box, weighs about 50 pounds or 100 pounds in this case, and just putting that screw this here and make sure this fits there. And if you don't line up the drawers on those things, if you don't get those things exactly level, so you really need to use a leveler. If you don't get a leveler when you go to put the drawers in, they're never right. Believe me, guys, after 5 countries of moving around, I've gotten used to putting these things together, but it doesn't make it any less of a drag. Let me tell you, it is still quite a drag to do. So let me just get my mind together on that. Mickey, welcome. Good to see you here, sir. Ben, yeah, this week on my regular content show, I released it yesterday. I put out a video talking about this pedal right here, the AMT M-Lead Plus, and giving it a lot of attention in terms of a lot of detail that frankly a lot of YouTube videos didn't have. Although there was one guy in Russia who actually took one of these apart to determine if it truly is driven, if the tube is driven it to the point where it's clipping. And actually it is. This thing is obviously too small to have a transformer in it. So how does it convert 12 volts into, you need at least 150 volts, 250, 300, really to make a tube clip. And he figured out that it has a boost converter in it, and essentially takes that voltage, boosts it to where it's in the right range between 250 and 300 volts. So yeah, you're really getting true clipping out of this thing. So out of all, I don't have them here with me. The Tube Monster, yeah, the Tube Monster's long gone. I tried quite a few of these pedals that are supposedly, giving you that true tube distortion through clipping, and none of them really stood up. If with the Tube Monster, I did notice if I switched over to like a vintage GE tube, so this is a new old stock vintage tube from the 60s, GE. If I put this in the Tube Monster, switch tubes in it, I did discover that there was a tonal change in it. It's no less true in this case, but you can switch tubes. I showed that. I didn't really make that very clear in that video. That I put it in the script, but I did switch tubes in between running it through the effects loop and then running it through the front end of the amp. So it'll do either. I like the tone of the tube that it came with between these two, the two that I switched. But I have to say that, it is a true tube distortion, and it's through, again, a boost converter going in here and making that possible. It actually, though, has a little bit of a cheat to it, I discovered. It's not a true 100% tube-driven kind of dealy here. There is a JFET circuit in here, just like over here in the F1. The F1 also has a JFET circuit, like most of the MT pedals. And what that means, the JFET circuit, it doesn't alter the sound of what you're doing. What it does is it acts in a certain way. It acts like a tube clipping. JFET circuit is like, it gives you that clipping type wave when you run a voltage through it, just like a tube. And so I think it's the combination of that JFET and having this tube in it that gives it that really authentic sound. I can't praise this pedal enough, guys. It really has that tone of a JCM 800, and I'm impressed with it. And so it's taken the place. I've already boxed up the Wampler. The Wampler is back in its box, and it's going to get moved on. Yeah, I like the Wampler. It's a great distortion pedal. However, I have to say that this right here is what I've been looking for all along to be in that number 2 slot. Like I said, on my Amplus pedal rig here, I want that first slot to have a Fender clean and the second slot to have Marshall drive. And boy, have I got that now. I don't know if you guys saw it. If you haven't taken the time to watch that, watch my review of this AMT pedal. And I took one of my tracks, Perfectly Lucky. I muted the rhythm track and then inserted myself in there playing live over the track with the AMT pedal here, the M lead. And as I stated, I liked it better. I really did. I wish I had this pedal when I was in my studio in Singapore. Did I mic? No. That was that was a song that actually I used. One of those rare occasions where I used software amps in order to record that song. But you know, this time around, going forward, I will be using this M lead. It's just superior. It's really a great sounding pedal, guys. And I know I've been kind of let me give myself a pillow here. I know I've been kind of, my back is killing me from stooping over and using. I have an electric drill that I was using, but you can't use that on all those, especially some of those smaller screws. And my back is killing me right now, but I shall persevere. Yeah, you know, I was on a kind of a pedal drought there for a while. Because again, I didn't feel like I really needed anything. I felt that my Amplus pedal rig here was pretty much, well, if it wasn't 100% there, it was pretty close. The AMT pedals made it 100%. So going forward, I don't know how many pedal demos I'll be doing. Really, the pedal demos are stuff that I'm using. It's not just me going out or somebody sending me something and say, hey, try this. This is the stuff that I actually use. And if it gets a pass, it's going to get a pass. If it's not working, and we've seen quite a few come through that did not work. I still have some of them that were, let's just say, like this right here, this Dr. D from Harley Benton. They were producing, it's a Dumble type pedal. Really, for a 30 euro pedal. Hey, welcome. For $30 for 30 euro pedal, I thought it was worth just hanging on to. And plus, like I said, with these cheaper pedals, once you commit to buying them, unless you're selling a whole set of them, you're pretty much well stuck to it. This, of course, my Overdrive from Japan. This is a prototype, one of a kind of thing. It also has, as of yet, not really, got to the level of being able to be on my board permanently. But I keep it around, just like the rest of them, and some of the ones I have down here on the floor. I keep them around, but if they're not on this board, they're really not happening. There's just something, and that's the first thing that I want to talk about tonight. Is in that I've talked about this before, that, not every rig is going to work with everything. You can't, you'll read okay, let me start all over again. You'll read a review about a pedal. Gold Star is in my lap, about to play with my newly acquired 1976 Ibanez Vintage Dreadnought. I suppose I'm a guitar owner player. Yeah, we're going to get into that. We'll get into that in a minute. Nice. A 76 Ibanez. Nice. Um, yeah, not every pedal is going to work with your rig, is the long and the short of it, is what I'm trying to say. Some of them will be extremely noisy in your rig. For example, I really like this clone that I have. My repair guy told me that this is a keeper. He said, "Hold on," he said, "the components in here are really nice," and I know that because I had it made in LA. But one of the problems about it is, and there's nothing that Gibbs could do for me. He's the guy who services my stuff, my electronics, is get that noise floor down. It's a little, this as it stands, and that's another thing I like about this one. It fit in because it's quiet. Everything is still quiet. I do have a noise gate here with the M-Stomp running at all times, but yeah, quiet. Not every pedal's gonna work. Yeah, the 76 Ibanez Vintage plays homage to the Martin D28 Dreadnought. Okay, now I've got an idea. I've got an idea of what you're talking about. Okay, hey, that's awesome. Um, I really would like to have a Dreadnought, but I digress. Not every pedal is going to work with your rig. And so, that's kind of one of the downsides of getting into pedals. It took me, guys, 3 years or so, maybe 4 years to get to the point where I'm at right now with this board where I'm actually happy. I went through a lot of pedals, and that's well documented on this channel. And I began to experiment about what I wanted that pedal board to be, what I didn't want, what worked, what didn't work. Noise floor, a big hiss, noise and hiss, because one pedal in the wrong place in your chain and you can get yourself some noise. Some pedals are just noisy in themselves. Um, just things like that. When you're putting your board together, if you're putting a board together, those are the kind of things that you're going to take into consideration. Is, does this pedal fit in my rig, and all the things that it has to do in order to fit? And that's why you get reviews of one pedal where one guy say, "Oh, it's the best thing since, sliced bread." And then you get another guy who says, "Oh, it's the worst thing, ever since, marmalade." And, you know, and that's because I think most of the time it really depends upon those two individuals' rig and whether it worked with that rig. Now, that's the kind of the sore spot of this, is that you have to go through so many pedals in order to get to that place. Now, of course, I've talked about cheap pedals and expensive pedals. I've talked about, just because you pay more, again, like I said, this is a 30-year-old pedal. It's a little noisy too. Another reason why it didn't make, but I do like the sound in and of itself. Sometimes in the right situation, I might call on this. But it was 30 euros for this pedal, not an expensive one, as opposed to something like this Wampler pedal, which is easily going to run you 250. I find some amps don't mix well with some guitars much, and so I say yes, exactly too. There's a lot. Thank you so much. I love my audience, brilliant guys out there. Yes, exactly correct. Because in that chain from the guitar, the pickups really is what we're talking about. From the pickups through this to the amp, there's a lot of places too. And that's another component of this. Does it? When I say does it work with your rig, I mean does it completely work with your rig all the way around? Does it completely work with your rig? And that's the excuse my language, the bitch of the bunch, because yeah, you got to get your guitar and your amp dialed in first, or before you go into that. It took me 3 TS-808 clones and 3 clones to realize that the 808 is microphonic and noisy when running into the clone at high gain. Yeah, I tried to. I had my before I traded it, and I had the Marshall Blues Breaker, and I was running that into this, and it sounds on paper because the Marshall Blues Breaker is notoriously quiet. It doesn't have a lot of output to it. It's interesting because with the new releases that they come out with, they also has that same disadvantage to it, but they kept it original, so I'll give them a nod to that. But I thought if I ran it through the Klon here, that it would sound great, and it just no. There's just some pedals that and that's one of the reasons I like this Nobles boost pedal here. I have a Nobles preamp booster from the from the mid '90s. Is that what it is? Yeah, mid '90s. Yeah, something like that. It's old. '93. And this thing, just like the Nobles ODR one pedal, it works with everything. And that's why I said if you don't want to spend that ODR one money for the original that's from the same run this one is from, get the preamp booster. It's got the same circuit, and it'll get you there 100%. And it works with everything. So, but I live and learn. I had to go through quite a few pedals to figure that out. So yeah, live and learn, as was stated there, but that live and learn aspect really comes down to going through a lot of different configurations on your rig. You're always, just kind of dealing with that. Good day to you, Mike and folks. Hope everyone is doing well and gets to play guitar today. Yes, sir. Every day is a good day when you can play your guitar. That means you're in the right place and you're in the right spot, the right moment. It's one of those things that, as an on-stage performer or as a recording artist, I always talk about finding your own tone. And that's the other aspect of it, of knowing where it is, what your tone is. Now, what it is you're trying to seek, or what it is you have in your head. As brilliant of a guitarist, thanks for having us to say, oh yeah, I'm so glad to be able to have all you guys here. 14 of us here tonight. 5 likes, something wrong with math. Hit those likes, guys. I appreciate it. Yeah, even Eddie Van Halen, as brilliant as he was, his ideas for his tone came from somewhere, from little bits and pieces, probably in his case from different players, obviously. But there was a tone he had in his head, and it came from somewhere. And we're all trying. That's what seeking tone, chasing tone. And that tone is your tone, whatever it is you want that to be. But that really comes out when you're doing recording. I think as I get older, the tone in my head and my taste change more than I ever thought it would. Yeah, I think you get more educated. I don't know. There's just some cats. I don't know if it's age, because I look at, again, before I mentioned Van Halen, as a teenager, pretty much was clear on what his tone was, and it wasn't like anybody else's. Prince, I could say the same, at an even younger age. Maybe us mere mortals, us non-Mozart level cats, as we get older. But even, and to be fair, even with the two guys that I just mentioned, their guitar styles and their tone changed as well. Prince used to say, I'm embarrassed when I listen to the way I used to play, which you would sit back and say, oh my God, are you kidding? But yeah, so you do mature, your ear matures. I've liked a Telecaster through a Fender, and I knew that a humbucker through a Fender sound I had that the American sound, the quintessential American sound. Now, of course, when I heard Back in Black in the summer of 1981 in Westwood, California, in front of Tower Records, because they used to have these huge speakers out in front, and they just blast the music out onto the street. I'm walking down the street, and I heard that for the first time. That's been a tone, a tone also that, along with a little sweeter, not as harsh, but that's been in my head that I've been chasing too. So we all have something from our youth, but as we grow older and we go down that tone chase and we say, okay, Mike, do you have any HSS Strat type guitars? No, I am not a big fan of Strats. Uh, it's weird. I never discussed this with my uncle Carlton, who is the guitar player for Fats Domino. He's played with Clapton, he's played with Pete Townsend, he's played with everybody. My uncle, he's nice again. He's no joke. But we never discussed this. But both of us never took the Strats. We were related, obviously, he's my uncle. But I guess in the McWilliams family, it's not a Strat. In the Hendrix family, it was awesome. In the McWilliams family, not so much. So no, I've never had one of those. But that tone thing and that tone chase. So again, it really getting back to the original subject, and I'm going to tie this into the main topic here. We're all chasing tone, but for different reasons. And a guitar player, I need to check out more of your uncle's music. Sounds like he had an incredible career. Yeah, please do. Carlton McWilliams, you can hear a lot of his stuff on YouTube. You can see him playing with Fats Domino. Look up Fats Domino and look to his right. That's generally my Uncle Carlton from the early 70s on until Fats passed away. Yeah, yeah, he's no joke. I mean, my uncle has hung out with a who's who of rock and roll. He knew the Allman Brothers very well. He actually got the Layla guitar, the one that was used for the slide guitar. He had that in his possession for a while. He got it from the Allman Brothers because he worked with them, and they used to be called Allman Joy. If you guys know a little bit of rock history and you knew them at that time and beyond, you met them at that time. Yeah, he's a legend. He's in the Blues Hall of Fame. So yeah, but. Serious cat. So check him out. Yeah, I was alluding to a guitar player versus a guitarist versus a collector. Those are three, in my mind, different categories that I'd like to talk about tonight. And the needs and requirements, legend, yes, of those three categories. Now, I'm going to start in a weird place, and as I normally do because I'm rambling. I'm rambling with purpose, as one of my college professors used to say. He said, if you're going to ramble with purpose. Do you remember Blockbuster Video? Do you remember, for you guys out there, for those of you in the UK, and in my case, in the 90s, and being in Japan, it was a place called Gios, which, by the way, still exists. Ramble on, yeah. Dun-dun-dun-dun, yeah. One of my favorite Zepp tunes. Ramble with purpose. Yeah, my professor. College professor used to say that. So it was an event to go to a Blockbuster or Be Kind Rewind, yeah. Or in my case, to get in my car or to walk to Blockbuster Video. Indeed, Blockbuster was sweet, yeah. it was an event. You'd go out with your girlfriend, you go out with your wife or your kids and your kids. You go out with your mom and your dad, and everybody at that time would go to Blockbuster Video or to Gios or to the equivalent of whatever it was here in Europe and the UK. You would go to your video store. And it was an event. It was a thing. It was a bringing together, and it exposed you probably to a lot of things that movies that you previously didn't know about. Especially in the X-rated section. I'm sorry. Oh boy, I cracked myself up. Or take someone else's girlfriend. Yeah, you do that too, to the X-rated section. Yeah, you pick one out tonight. No, but that was the funny part about the Japanese video store, man, because the regular section of videos in some of those stores would be about this big, and the porn section would be about this big. I'm not kidding. Man, the Japanese, the term skebe, if any of you are familiar with that, that just means kind of filthy, nasty. Those are some skebe guys, man. It used to crack me up. They had a curtain and everything. Memories of Japan. But it was an event. And it was something you did with a family, as a family or a group or friends or things like that. Well, going to a music store and buying an instrument, as I've talked about before, it was the same thing. When Marshall came out with a new amp, you went down to the store to go check it out. When Fender came out with a new guitar, you went down to the store to check it out. And when you went down to the store to check it, the local music store to check it out, you could A and B it against something else if you were serious about buying, or you could see that Fender in all its colors, all its glory, all the different shapes and sizes it was an event. You went there with your friends, your mates. Sometimes you drug your wife or your girlfriend along. I'm sure we've all been guilty of that one way or another, or someone else's girlfriend, as was pointed out. But it was also something that you did, and you were exposed to a lot of things that you ordinarily would not be exposed to. And we have lost something when streaming came in. We've got more choices, or going to the movie store used to be an awesome experience. The whole process of getting there, browsing the options, and then grabbing the candy and popcorn gave time for anticipation for the movie. That's correct. And even though it was home, and maybe you had a little TV and a VCR, maybe you had a big TV and a DVD player, whatever it was, whatever medium. But it was an experience. And, as weird as this sounds, I talk about these collective experiences that we had. The streaming destroyed the theater going experience. If you haven't read the newspaper, a lot of theaters are struggling, because there's not a lot of stuff, and unless you're into Barbie or into atomic bombs, not a lot out there for you to go running to the movie theater to see in the first place. Ticket prices are expensive, and the COOF really diminished that market. Well, much in the same way, Sweetwater, Tonmon, and all these retailers came in with their streaming. They stream guitars and pedals and amps. They stream them across your. They're not tangible. They're not something you can touch. And in the case of streaming movies, if you don't have, if your cable goes, or your streaming, your internet goes down, you're kind of screwed if you don't have physical media. Well, when the shop started streaming guitars and amps and pedals and things like that, we lost some of that collectiveness. We lost something there. And there is nothing like going into a brick and mortar shops and exploring and trying and learning about all different stuff in this store. Yes. I experienced that with Colin recently when I was in London. And he and I were going around to those different shops. I saw a lot of cool stuff, man. A lot of things that, some things, a lot of things I have seen because I've been to a lot of music stores, but a lot of cool stuff that I wouldn't trade in. The ambiance is what I liked. I just like those old, crickety wooden floor brick shops, and it's just it's got a vibe to it. That's a guitar shop. When I walk into some of the shops here in the Netherlands, like Box, it's fluorescent lights and sheet paneling and white, white and metal, and it doesn't it's lit up like a Christmas tree, and it's not the kind of environment where I feel like. And then you'll go over to the section where they have guitars, and it'll be dim, you know. Colin's channel is great too. Enjoy it. Yeah, Colin's a great guy. You gotta check him out. The Guitar Research. Probably does some of the most comprehensive reviews of guitars on YouTube. The old local guitar shop was like the general store of old. People would hang out and just socialize. Yes, Phil, that is correct. So it's something there. Greetings from Athens, Georgia, USA. Greetings, greetings. Boy, I could go for a Georgia peach right now. That's a taste I haven't had in a long time. For some reason, I just, of course, the Georgia Film Association, their logo is a peach, so I guess that has something to do with it. But whenever I think of Georgia, I think of peaches. Uncle Carlton's in Atlanta, Georgia, by the way. Um, you know, it was an experience, and we've lost that. Now, here in the guitar world, in the pedal world, amp world, our world, this this phantom zone that we live in, we again lost that because of the streaming, as I call it, of instruments and guitars. And you can pick up your phone anytime, and you can sit there and you can swipe, and you can see hundreds of guitars a day. Believe me, I've done it. I do it for for my work. I have to research and look into stuff. But it's not the same thing as holding it in your hands. It's just not. I still go loiter and hang out at local shops to talk to my employees and other guitar shoppers. I learn a lot from the conversation. Yeah, and that's the other thing. Talking to shop guys, hearing stories. This is coming out. Hey, did you know about this? Hey, I've got something here in the back that I've been holding off. Thought about you. Maybe it's something you're interested in. That kind of experience. Believe me, you're not going to get that at Sweetwater. They even stopped giving out the candy. You don't even get the candy anymore. Now, they do take pictures of their guitars, each individual one in good lighting, so that when you're shopping online, you can pick the color. But trust me, it's not, they can photograph it, to heck 3D, modeling as much as they want to, but it is not the same thing as having it in your hand and turning it in the sunlight. Or even in the case of, a Bach's music in the fluorescent light. It's not the same thing. They say it's such and such weight, but some guitars, they say they're heavy, but they feel lighter, and vice versa. There's a lot of things. We're moving away from these. And also talk to folks at shops who share, inspiring them to play and what tones they're chasing. Yeah, that's true. Or maybe to help with your tone. Hey, I'm trying to do this. Can you recommend something? I want to get this sound. What do you think? And so yeah, not so much anymore. I'll bash Guitar Center forever. I think that those guys there are really, in the beginning, back in the '90s, that was the place to go to for knowledge. There was a lot of, because they were all working musicians there. They worked there during the day and they did their gigs at night in the stage or studio. I was fortunate because I got a job working in the studio, so I didn't have to do that, but that could have easily been me too as well. The quality of the guys is just not there anymore, and I think it's just because they don't have the level of experience because there's not as many gigs. It's just a different thing. And so the knowledge wealth base is not there either, and but that's a different subject for another time. But interesting enough, guys. I'm doing one of my roundabouts. I'm tying this into tonight's main subject. Are you a guitar player? Are you a guitarist? Or are you a collector? Now, regardless, I first want to say that all three of those things are different. They're similar. They have some similarities. They share some things, but they are different. Morning, folks from Australia. Maddie Two Hats. Welcome, welcome, Maddie. Welcome. From down under. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, it is three different categories that sometimes cross into each other. And so I am going to pose this question to you starting out tonight. Are you a guitar player? Are you a guitarist? Are you a collector? I'm happy to say that my local guitar center has a bunch of great dudes that love what they do. You're very lucky in Michigan. I believe that. I believe, my father is from the Midwest and from, in the Great Lakes area as well. You still got some quality dudes there. But on the East Coast, or I can speak for the West Coast, nah. 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 I believe that. I believe that completely. But I know all guitar centers are not created equal for sure. Yeah. Dig that. So I'll pose a question to you. Are you a guitar player? Are you a guitarist? Are you a collector? Now, I brought that initial introduction subject of that tactile experience up because it's something that all three of those categories share in common, that all three of them need to have that tactile experience, or they are limited to shopping through online services. All three of them are serviced through one of those two mediums, with this medium, the initial one, the brick and mortar stores, really becoming less and less and less and less. And it means that now a collector will go to a brick and mortar store and he will seek that tactile experience when he's seeking something new. Collectors are guys, we'll start at the bottom of the list and we'll work our way up. So we'll start with what a collector is. A guitar collector is a person who has a goal of getting a room full of guitars, old or new, but condition is everything to these guys. Now, I know, without a show of hands, that condition isn't really a high thing on us. Well, me, I'm really crazy about guitars because I spent so much time in Japan, again around my Japanese musician friends, that I all but put it to bed with a blanket and a pillow. My guitar, I wipe it down every day. Every time I play it, I wipe it down. I give it a waxing, but so because I want to keep the condition nice. But most guys, it'll get banged around, throw it in the case, go to the gig, gets banged around the case, maybe gets a chip here and there, maybe something gets a little wonky on it, something maybe the switch gets bent. I've had a lot of Telecasters where that three-way switch was in serious damage mode. And so those things happen. So we're not, that's just something that collectors care a lot about, obviously, is condition, condition, condition. Regardless of whether it's a new guitar or an old guitar, a collector isn't necessary. We all have a vision of a guitar collector as being a guy who just wants vintage guitars. No, there's a lot of guys who are collectors who want this year's model, and I'm talking about. Let's look at 2019 for example, when Gibson came out with their inspired by line through Epiphone. Somebody had to have the 50s, they had to have the 60s, they had to have the whole line as well as the Gibson. I like a well-used role-play guitar. I don't like case queens anymore. Yeah, Mickey, we're going to talk about guys like that, like you, and in another category. But collectors right now, let's focus on those guys. They're going to buy all of whatever that series is, or they may be particular, they're into casinos. So they're going to buy every casino that comes out, old or new. There is a guy actually on YouTube here in the EU. I don't know what country he's in, but he collects casinos, and he'll compare an old USA-made casino versus an Epiphone China-made one, and he'll go through those as well as 335s. But he's a collector. And then you look in a minute his video comes on. The dude has a massive collection of old and new Gibsons and Epiphones. He's a collector. Now, some collectors gig. There are some gigging collectors, so I'm not going to say that you're just a collector, you don't play. The interesting thing that I've noticed about collectors is that the gigging, the few, and there are a few, the few guys that gig and are collectors, they always take their cheapest guitar. They never take their good stuff. I'll give Kurt Hammett from Metallica much props because he takes Greenie out on stage when he's playing his on tour. He takes it out on tour and he plays that guitar as well as it should. Here's my number one gripe against collectors. They gather a bunch of cool instruments that are really nice and they don't play them. They just sit around. They sit around. You only got so many hands and so many fingers, so many arms. You can't play them all at once. And collectors to me are not, I don't begrudge you having a guitar collection, but I do begrudge those who are, it borders on hoarding almost to a certain point. There's a YouTube personality who sells guitars we all know very well. Eggman Wiki very well stated my preference as well. Yeah, we'll get to that. And he'll every year he'll bring out his personal collection, the ones that he's keeping, and every year it fills up an entire basement. And I'm thinking, boy, if you sell them. Give it into the hands of somebody who's going to play it. But that's my pet peeve against the true collectors, the ones that, and even if they do gig, they always take out something cheap or something that they're, it's something, but if something happens to it, I don't care, And so I don't think anybody watching this here is a collector. So we will say that probably very few, if any of us here fall in that group. If you do, I'm not begrudging you again. But my one thing is, for God's sake, if you are a collector, play them. Take them out, put them in rotation. There are some guys who do that, who are collectors. They say, hey, I played on rotation. Like this week, I'll pull this one out this week. And they'll go through 52 weeks, and they'll play 52 different guitars. But at least they're playing them. Let's move on to, we're going to skip up to what a guitar player is. A guitar player is someone who can make music with a guitar. Now, generally a guitar, this is going to be the controversial part of tonight's discussion, because if you notice, I do not think a guitar player and a guitarist are the same thing. Again, a guitar player, a guitarist, and a collector, they have some things in common that they share, as I stated in the beginning, but they are not the same thing. A guitar player is somebody who can pick up an electric guitar or an acoustic guitar, and they can play music. They can play a tune all the way through, that they practiced. They can, among, campfire, they can strum. They are the ones that generally annoy you the most when you do go to the Guitar Center. These are the ones, the reason why in Wayne's World there was a sign that says, no playing Stairway to Heaven. The guitar players. That's why that sign is on the wall. It's these guys, the ones that I'm talking about. And there's some guitar players who played enough, they play very well. But they play very nice. When you play, it's a pleasant thing. So there's a sliding scale. There's the ones not so great. And there's some guitar players who are very good. But very few of them are proficient. Like an interesting, and and I'm not categorizing him, but something that surprised me is that when speaking of Colin, when we were in going through those guitar shops, I said, "Hey, let's go over the acoustic section and take a look at those." He says, "I don't play acoustic guitar. I don't know how to play acoustic." He said, "I only play electric." And I was taken aback about that at first, but then because I play both, and I always have, but I understood that. I said, "Oh, okay, I can get that. I can get that," because it really comes down to it. And there's some acoustic guitar players who can't play electric, you know. But that's interesting to me, you know. That's what but that is what a guitar player is. Again, there's a sliding scale of proficiency there, but that's basically they play a guitar of one shape or another. Now, a guitarist. A guitarist is taking the term guitar and artist and putting them together. Guitarist, a guitar artist, a guitar artist. A guitarist is more skillful and creative than a guitar player. Plus, they'll play multiple string instruments. They'll play the mandolin. Agreed. And then I got a ladybug. Thank you, William. Uh, you're gonna find that a guitarist will play the mandolin or the bass, the acoustic guitar, the electric guitar. Maybe they'll play 7-string electric, 8-string electric. Maybe they'll play 5-string bass. They'll play string instruments. Plus, they'll have a musical proficiency enough to be creative with the music in order to write and to compose with it. Clapton, Hendrix, Page, Townsend, you know, let's just go through that list. Those guys and Bonnie Raitt. Let's throw some ladies in there as well. Joni Mitchell. These are guitarists. These are guitarists. They're guitar playing artists. Now they're not limited to just playing, string instruments. They can also play others, drums, things like that. Lita Ford. Lita Ford, she's a guitarist. You know, that is that distinction between a guitar player and a guitarist. And you kind of, and a guitar player can transition to becoming a guitarist. And a guitarist, usually, if they're successful, will transition to becoming a guitar collector. See, the shit rolls downhill. In this particular, actually, this is not. It actually gets better, I guess. It's like an inverse pyramid scheme. But we all start out as guitarists. It's up to you whether or not you want to, or it's up to your talents, ability, desire, and drive and ambition as to whether or not you want to take that next step into becoming a guitar artist. In my personal case, I started out on piano. Got my keyboard right here, and then I moved to bass guitar. I didn't start out on electric. I actually started out on bass. I had a PV bass and a PV amp that I got, interesting enough, from the Guitar Center. And then I moved into guitar when I met my friend Drake Gooseby. I played, well, that's not true. I played around with acoustic guitar. You guys know my sad initial acoustic guitar story. I moved from acoustic to electric. Bass from the bass starting out to acoustic guitar to the electric guitar, and then using all three, and then picking up over here. Can I get this? Yeah, I can get this. And then I very rarely, I don't know if you guys have seen this. Let me get this out. And then I eventually moved into playing the mandolin as well. This is my mandolin. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Mother of pearl back here, handmade. So my mandolin. So I moved on to playing other string instruments as well as time progressed. So I made that transition from being a guitar player. Yeah, it is a nice one. That was made by hand in Vietnam. You can actually go to my channel, this channel, or to my channel. You can go to, you're watching my channel. You can look back to one of my trips to Ho Chi Minh. I believe it's what it's called, Guitar Safari Ho Chi Minh. I got that in Ho Chi Minh. Nice guy, maker. And so I made that transition. And I love your channel. Keep the great videos coming. I like seeing you on Guitar Reach also. You have a great taste in guitars. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. I try, I like to pick out the things that I think other people will like as well. So I'm on the right track, I see, with that kind of thinking. But you'll make that transition, or not, and there's nothing wrong. Like I said, I have no criticisms of the first two categories, the guitar player and the guitarist. The collector is the one that I have to be honest with you. Unless you're Norm at Norm's Rare Guitars, and as I pointed out to you before, watch his videos, and you'll see his warehouse. It looks like like the I am not exaggerating. It looks like the Indiana Jones warehouse from the first movie, and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. And it's full of guitars. Now I respect him because that's his business, and that was his lifelong thing, is to buy guitars and put those away. His retirement plan. I could respect that, and I could respect other collectors who are out there thinking of it in terms of a retirement plan. But the collectors who are just for the sake of collecting, I'm just not with it. Joe Bonamassa said that's his retirement plan, so I respect that. Although he can tour, the money he makes from tours, which goes into his guitars, I guess that's a way. But I guess I guess he's thinking, if I can't play anymore, that'll be my retirement plan. I don't quite get that, how that works with him being the level of artist that he could effectively tour like the Rolling Stones until he drops dead. And then, even then, they'll probably come out with an AI version of him. But yeah, dig that, guys. That's my one peeve against collectors, So on that list, the collector is the one that it's got a lot of caveats to it. But who are you? Are you a guitar player? Are you a guitar artist? I respectfully disagree. I don't think being a multi-instrumentalist is being prerequisite for being a guitarist. No. And Phil, I'm not saying that you're misunderstanding that. What I'm saying is that most guitarists, guys who are guitarists, they tend to be multi-instrumental guys. It's not the cart before the horse. That was the progression. Again, I said I started out on keyboards and I then moved to guitar. And also true, you don't have to be, again, I guess I see your point too, you don't have to be a multi-instrumentalist to be a guitarist. I think of all the guys that I listed: Jimmy Page, Pete Townsend, Jimi Hendrix. All those guys, though, however, they could play the drums, they could play the bass. Hendrix played bass quite often on some of his recordings when he was unhappy with Noel. He'd kick in. It's just one of those things. But no, you don't necessarily have to be. does Joe Bonamassa play bass? I'm sure he does a bit. Does he play drums a bit? Yeah, I'm sure. But is he really a guitar artist, a guitarist? Yeah, I guess a pure, guitarist. So I see your point. But it just so happens that most of the cats that I know, including myself, and can play multi instruments. We can play a lot of different ones. It just happens that way. I don't know why. So dig that. Dig that. It is a list, like any other list. It's not perfect, but it does put out my mindset on what a guitar player is, what a guitarist is, and what a guitar collector is. Those are three different categories. Again, some of them merge into each other and intertwine. Other aspects of it, not so much, not so much. Now, to, to condition of guitar, as Mickey was talking about, I'm not that guy. I'm the guy. I'm that guy who's a little pedantic about his instruments. Obviously not this bass guitar because it doesn't has a case, and if I'm not using it, it's sitting in the corner like one of those guys in the Blair Witch Project. It's always in the corner of the room. Uh, Prince was one of the best multi instruments ever in my eyes. Yes, and Stevie Wonder, and uh, 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 Hello, It's Me. Who's that? What's his name? Hello, It's Me. Who wrote that song? Trivia out there, guys. Who wrote Hello, It's Me? That complete song, Hello, It's Me, that recording is him playing all the instruments by himself. And this is the mid 70s. Stevie Wonder was doing it like that as well. Lionel Richie, you know, Todd Run. I can never pronounce Run Gritton. Like Jackie from that 70s, Tom Runderman. No, Todd Rundgren. Yes, him. He played every instrument on that recording and sang it. An inspiration of mine. But then again, personally, my inspiration guys, the guys that I look up to, they were all producers and multi instrumentalists, and and all the guys in my neighborhood that I grew up with, because of the way that we practice. I would start on the drums. My friend John would be on guitar or bass. Drake would be on guitar or bass, depending upon those two switching around. Somebody else would be on keyboards, and we'd switch. Then I'd be on the bass, and and we just kind of switched around like this. Now, we're doing this from the age of 15, 16 years. Dave Grohl, that first Foo Fighter album, he said, "Hey, I'm not going to sit around and do the try to find another replacement for Nirvana lead singing. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do my own thing." And he wrote and played all the instruments. And Lenny Kravitz, another example, of course. Though a lot of the guitar work on that album was not Lenny. On his first album, "Are You Going My Way?" Some of the rhythm parts, yeah, but the leads and things. Anyway, but yeah, it just kind of goes that way. And you know what? In terms of your usefulness, the reason why I flourished is because they could call me up and I could either record it or I could be in the recording. And then being in the recording on a different instrument if they needed me. And so that's how I made money, you know. That Love Rock album, I love that album. Yeah, yeah. I do too, especially It Ain't Over Till It's Over. I remember me and Jock were down in Compton at his house, his parents' house down there, and that came on the radio, and I listened to it. I said, "My gosh, that sounds good. It Ain't Over Till It's Over." That arrangement was something that I was like, whoa, whoa. Sonically, it was interesting. So there is that, guys. What's the point of this? Again, there is no point. Just some of my ramblings and my observations. Um, Again, like I said, it was going to be controversial. I don't expect it to be, and I'm not saying it's 100% set in stone. Again, that's why I started out saying that sometimes those categories blend into each other, they feed into each other, but there are three distinct categories. And you have to decide, and be comfortable and try the best, be the best. If you're going to be a collector, damn it, be the best collector you're going to be. If you're going to be a guitar player, be the best guitar player that you can be. And if you're the best guitar artist, be the best guitar artist that you can be. At the end of the day, that's the thing. Now, what my definition of what those three things are, or my personal definition of what that would be, is of course subjective, as it is with you guys. But getting to the condition of things, yeah, I'm that way with some things. Like I said, this bass, it gets slapped in the corner. Basses, I'm not as careful with. It's weird. It's guitars, electric or acoustic, that I'm very pedantic about it. But bass guitars, other instruments, keyboards, other stuff like that, they'll get tossed around. They'll get abused. It's funny with me. I'm very selective on the things that I really keep nice. Everything else is kind of a hodgepodge. Hell, I've got to do my dusting up here because it's so dusty, and I leave the window here open, air out the studio, and just I come in and there's a layer of fine dust. It doesn't help that the cable car, or the cable car goes by here, but in any case, it is really hodgepodge with me about what I keep nice and what I don't. But guitars, electric guitars particularly, well, I only have one acoustic, and that stays in its case, unless I'm recording or if I feel like practicing it. I am enjoying contemplating the three categories you proposed, Mike. Good ideas to play around with and think about. Yeah, it's just something. See, I throw this stuff out every week with you guys out as for me, it's a mental exercise. And it's or something, or I'll be or I'll come across something, I'll read something, and it'll inspire me. I would like, if there are things that you'd like me to discuss outside of the live stream, when we're not, you can ask me questions, of course, now, but down in the comments section, whether you're watching this live now or you're going to watch it in the rerun, put it down there. I read everything. And a lot of these shows come up from comments or things that I read or things that I'm asked. And this week I came across these guys on a forum, and they were talking about the price increases. And one of the guys was made the statement, well, I guess it really comes down to whether you're a guitar player or a collector. And in terms of that, the frame of that conversation. And I said there's a third, I thought in my mind automatically, but there's a third category there. Hello, Mike there, nice to see you again. Frederick, welcome, Frederick. Thank you, it's good to see you too. Thank you so much for taking the time to show up here. I said there's a third category, and that's the guitar artist, the guitarist. It's so often the guitar player and the guitarist are commingled together, but those are really two separate categories, and in my mind, at least. Excuse me. And so that's how I came up with this concept to talk about tonight. I said, well, let's talk about why I think it's not just guitar player or collector, it's guitar player, guitar artist, or collector. Let's talk about that. And let's keep it interesting. And starting out again, I said, let's go back, let's begin at the beginning, as Cole Porter wrote. Let's go back to that experience thing and how all three of these categories benefit from the tactile experience of being able to go to a real store or go to a person's house, in the case of the collector usually, or sometimes in the case of the store, and feel the instrument. The collector, in that category, the collector actually is doing best because he's taking, it's his hobby, it's his thing. So he's going to take the time, of course he has the money, to go out and because condition is everything, which is the point of why I digressed on my digression. I forgot this point. The reason why condition is everything to him is he's not going to accept something online. he's not going to accept something to even be mailed to him in a lot of cases. That's getting a little loosey goosey. But most of the real collector guys I know, they want to go there. They pick it up in their hands, and they want to drive it home themselves. They're not going to have a third party in between, that process. And they are the ones that are keeping the mom and pop shops alive in a lot of ways, interestingly enough. So that's why, I can't begrudge them completely, because they're doing something that a lot of guys, certain that first category, once he gets one guitar, hey, I don't need two or three. Usually there's one guitar kind of guys. The guitarist and the collector usually have more than one, or at least one of each. And but the guitarist and the guitar player are still mostly the online, or they've moved more towards an online kind of a shopping experience. Especially the guitar player. The guitarist, depending upon his level, he is going to want to have that hands-on kind of feeling too, but he'll take a risk on mailing something to him as well. The guitar collector really he wants that tactile feeling. He's going to want to go out and he's going to touch it. He wants to inspect it. Of course, because condition is everything. Is it original? All the parts there? What's the damage? Has this been through the Great Flood? Did Noah have this on his ark? Water damage? Because that's what I'm going through with my import, the guitar that I just brought in, the Orville. There was a little bit of water damage there, or at least humidity, moisture damage there. Not like it was submerged, but there's some things I have to replace because of that. Man, I'm glad I'm not a collector. I mean, I can understand the thrills they may get from chasing down investment pieces, but I'd rather just play all the guitars I own and enjoy them that way. Yeah. I'm of that mindset too. I have one of each. My guitars, my personal, like I said, I have one electric at a time, because I believe in an intimacy. And it works with, again, getting back to the original subject about stuff working with your rig. That guitar works with my amp. That guitar works with my ampless rig. That guitar works with, I've had some really nice Gibsons and some nice Epiphones that did not work with my amp, or they didn't work with my rig, or they didn't work with either one. This guitar works with both. That's half the battle won there. And by what I mean works, I mean it sounds, I know how that amp sounds, how it can sound, and I know how this pedal board can sound. And if I don't hear that when I plug a guitar in, I'm like, yeah, of course, heights, pole, all things being equal, yeah. Dig that. So I'm glad I'm not a collector too. Because again, and yeah, I'm a one, I got one acoustic guitar I love. I got one electric right now that I love. That's my own personal mandolin, bass. If I can pack them all up and go into a studio, and I'm ready to go. Don't need anything more than that. I even like the color. I don't know. I keep using that Indiana Jones quote because I've been watching all the Indiana Jones movies. I'm waiting for this latest one to come out on cable because I refuse to watch it because I know it's garbage. I know it's a hot mess. But it coming out did kind of get a little bit of nostalgia in my mind about watching the older ones, and they hold up. Even Crystal Skull kind of holds up. Serial monogamous. Yeah, I'm a serial monogamous when it comes to my guitars. I can say that is absolutely true. Too much time and energy spent collecting means less time practicing. Again too, and and setting up. I've got my guitar dialed in for this pedal board so that when I sit down and I'm ready to, it was funny. Serial monogamous, that was funny. When I sit down to this board, I've got my guitar dialed in. I can start recording instantaneously. When I go out to sit down to that amp. I don't have to set it. I got it set so I know when I plug it in, all the tone options that I need. I've got the amp set are actually with the tone and volume knobs on my Les Paul. That's where all the action is at, and it shouldn't be anywhere else. I don't want to constantly going out and messing with the amp. I'm the same. You have to really understand your instrument. Yeah, dig that, Phil. It's an intimacy that I believe. A lot of these guys, Kurt Hammett, getting back to him, when he talks about Greenie, he said the minute he held it in his hand, he said, "Dude, you're not getting this guitar back." And he spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to purchase it, but he knew at the minute that he had it in his hand and he played it, that it was unique. It was a unique instrument. It was something that spoke to him. And having an intimacy, a serial monogamy with one instrument or another teaches you that instrument. Its strengths and its pluses and its minuses, and also your pluses and minuses as well. Show your weaknesses and where you need to improve. And so yeah, dig that, guys. Dig that. As my old guitar player used to say, dig that. He used to say, but he said it different. He said, dig it. Yeah. Dig it. I'm like, okay, I'm digging it. So I kind of adopted it in memory of him. But yeah, check it out. Think about it. Pond it. Take these thoughts into consideration of things that I've talked about tonight. Coming up this week, I have freaking no idea. I'm hoping it's this Orville that I was just before mentioning. I have it down at Ferns. We are doing some work on it. Not a lot of water damage, but when you take the screws out and you see rust on the screws on the back plate, you've had some moisture there. Then you start looking into the cavities to make sure there's nothing damaged there. Thank God, nothing like that. But that guitar, needed some loving. And fortunately, got two guys, me and Fern, working on getting it back up to snuff to its old glory. It's a over 25-year, 30-year-old guitar. It's a 30-year-old guitar at this point. So yeah, dig that. So maybe we'll be reviewing that this week if I can get it back from Fern this week. If not, I'm sure I can think of something else to talk about, to discuss. I've changed my format. If you notice, I've moved to 4K now. I'm very pleased with that on the channel. The channel hit 2K subscribers, guys. Actually, YouTube kind of jerked me around. They sent me a notification that I was at 2,000. Sure enough, I looked at my channel. It said 2K, and then the next day I looked at it, it was back down to 1.99. I was like, what the hell? And then I checked, and I had lost 2 subscribers for some reason. And it took just a few hours, and it jumped up. So we're slightly over 2K, but we hit that. Last week we weren't there. I said I hope to be there by this live stream, and we have reached it. So yeah, thank you so much to you guys. I couldn't have done it without each and every one of you, and that is from the heart. This didn't happen on its own. It didn't happen by itself. To hit the 2K mark organically like this, small channel, one camera, now 4K camera, but one camera operation, one guy, 311 videos, no online presence, and just a consistency. I think that we're going to go up from here. Maybe they were collectors. Funny. Funny. Yeah, that's a good one. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. It is a pleasure to know you guys and to meet you through this medium, through our live stream, to talk to you. Now I've got this set up over here and I can watch the live stream in real time. This is going better. It's just these small improvements, these little things that I'm doing. to make it a better experience and to make a lot more fun. I am glad to be. I'm sitting here with screen here, lights here. It's like I never thought it would get to this point. Uh, it's you, Mike. The quality of the content and the works where you put into it, we're just along for the ride. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate that from you guys. But I am putting in the effort. It all starts with putting the effort, putting the thought in. So, if the old movie saying, if they build it, if you build it, they'll come. That's true. It is true, Um, if you serve free drinks, they'll come a lot more, more and more frequently. We'll have open bar with Mike on Sunday. Boy, we'll get 3K, no problem. So that is the next goal. So let's, if you haven't subscribed to this channel and you like to get us to that 3K, it's always something, there's a goal, but that's what life is. It's about a series of goals and achieving goals. And feeling good when you achieve those, but have someone's goals after that. And that goes through your entire life, I have found. We talked about tone changing as we get older. That goal has changed as well. There's just goals that change. You achieve it and you say, okay, let me take it up a notch. And I want to thank you guys for helping me do that. It doesn't happen without you. You did come. I did build it and you did come. So thank you. This week we'll review something. We'll talk about something. It'll be something. Probably more or less likely it's going to be that over of White Gibson. We'll do a review of that. We'll talk about the Japanese. I love Japanese made guitars. So that's good to have another one in that I can compare it with my existing one, the Stoner. So stay tuned for that, guys. Also, live chat, Mike. Looking forward to catching you on live chats in the coming days, week. Thank you so much. Don't forget to take a look at my regular content, guys. This week I reviewed the AMT M-Lead. I reviewed this pedal right here. Take a look at that. Hit the like button on that one as well. Comment on it. I do appreciate you taking the time to do that as well. And until the next one, you guys take care. Bye-bye. I can't go back in here and finish putting, believe it or not, I'm serious, I'm going to get off here on the camera. I'm going to go in there and finish putting that stupid cabinet together. I'm going to be up for a while. So wish me luck. Good night, guys.